Welcome to Podcast This Escape, the podcast that talks about the escape room we escaped from in the previous episode of this podcast. Dani and Matt, congratulations, you got away from a lighthouse, you uncovered a conspiracy, and you saw a corpse.
We knew it all along.
We saw a dead guy. It was cool.
Look, Billy, it's on you for spoiling us by giving the Coast Guard pirate voices.
True. I made them too suspicious. I should have given them my nicest voice, which would have been... Hey.
Oh, dear God.
Gross.
Whoa, well,
Untrustworthy creepy.
Captain Feldman. No, look, congratulations. It is a tough room. There's a lot of puzzles in there.
There was a lot going on, yeah.
So I will start.
Yeah.
I will ask the two of you each. Was there a moment in that you felt especially smart or good puzzle-wise?
Generally, I had a good time with a lot of the puzzles in here. For me, it was definitely looking at the peculiar sentences and going, wait a second, excitedly jive, I know those letters. Those are difficult letters.
So I mentioned to you, Dani, before I ran this, there was one puzzle in this that I really liked, and that was the puzzle that I really liked, because pangrams have such a flavor to them. Because they use these words that you would never, ever use. And so when I was reading the sentences, because I sort of play tested the idea of this room myself by just trying to read through and do it in order. And I saw those sentences and I went, Quizzly jumping jive than fox. It says fox in this. Are these pangrams?
Was it Fox that gave it to you?
Fox is such a pangram word.
I was pretty confident, like, by the time I got to Fox, yeah, I was quite certain.
And I really wanted to hear you two go through them and do them letter by letter, because I did the exact same thing. It's one of these language things. I did the exact same stuff where I was going through and be like, well, there's no H in this one. Clearly they've made a mistake. The fool. And then I went, wait a minute.
Oh, it's right there.
It says the, and I was really, now, that being said, when I did go through them, they clearly had been changed it at one point, because it did say Vwelv the first time. There was a V missing in the first one.
Oh,
not
interesting.
So I changed that slightly. So I think they reorganized the sentence at one point and put the V sentence at the top and forgot to make a tiny change.
Sure.
So I was primed
Easy
to think,
to do.
wait, maybe these are wrong, but it did say Vwelv.
Maybe we were always meant to go to page 12 and we'll never know the
So
true
I made a tiny wording change in that one, and in another one there was a word missing. I think.
Good work working with it.
Yeah, it's good to go through and.
That must be like potentially even harder, or just as hard as coming up with them in the first place.
I believe the first one had a T and was missing a V, because it said, like, instead of give cozy vibes, it's like get cozy vibes.
Okay.
And or no, get cozy. It just said get cozy. So it didn't have a V and it did have a T.
Gotcha.
So clearly it had been used in the other space originally.
Fair.
And so I changed it to be give cozy vibes.
That's a
Get
clever
the V
fix.
in there.
It's really good.
Get out of it. And I changed something else. There was a word I think that was missing in one of them. My notebook around here. Yeah, number 3 was originally when I did it. Number 3 didn't have a K and a Z in it.
Oof, that's
So
tough.
I put in the phrase ask Zach.
Oh.
Ask Zach. Vast fog and damp can jam your fox quills. But this is one of these things. It's really hard with these to and we do this all the time when
This
we make
is why you're
this,
my
like,
playtester. You do
playtesting a
this.
thing, being like, let me double check and I think that one's super easy to miss, because by that point, and it wouldn't have bothered you, because by that point you were already going, let's go until I find the missing letter, up E, no E, and you wouldn't have continued on because you'd already discovered. So I did the same thing. So I went back and I went, wait a minute, let me just double check that there aren't any, and I found a couple. But I love that puzzle so much. I really like seeing a pangram. Matt, was there anything that you felt like, oh man, that was a cool puzzle for me, that I enjoyed, that you felt smart and did well?
I just thought I liked that it had like every puzzle ever invented. It felt like it was just
had a
always
lot of
new
little
stuff
language
coming
things.
at you. That's fun. I feel like I achieved something tonight. That's like
I was the
important.
one that you got straight away of, like, very, very quickly, was that poem that was broken up. The last my time is here and you just all went, let's just count number of letters on every line, turn those into new letters, which is exactly correct. And you caught that straight away.
Did you notice the funny coincidence in having to do this puzzle right after my last room?
Oh, what was your last room?
spoilers for the wedding dress shop room
Sure.
for people who haven't listened. Right at the end, needing the times of day were subtractions also.
Yes.
And
So-
the hours corresponded to the lines of messages on a mirror, and they were the words. You needed to take the word that ended up. So like, you ended up with a 4, you needed the 4th word. And we ended up in playtesting and in the real thing with players going, oh, do we need to take the 4th letter? And me trying to go, well, no, there are probably too many letters on each line
Yeah,
for
so
it to
what
be
else could
letters.
you do?
This
And
was
this
the
is
exact
There
opposite of that.
weren't enough words, but there were just enough letters.
And I now stand by my puzzle. I thought maybe it needed more hinting, but after having played through it in this version,
got it.
it's perfect.
The sketches is a tough one as well, though I would say when I was playing
Which
through the
sketches
room, getting the
won?
sketches in order by saying that it must
Yeah.
be 2 + 4, 3 + 2.
That was a challenge.
That
Yeah.
for me was actually, when I ran through it, that clicked immediately in my head.
Yeah.
I didn't expect you to have an issue. Once you saw the negatives, because it was interesting, because you saw the negatives, eventually you got to, why don't I subtract from those numbers?
Yeah.
But then didn't think, well, then the other ones, I guess I'll add them, which I did do for me. So that's interesting player to player, like what's... And this is the thing that's tough when you're designing puzzles, and why playtesting is important, doing a lot of it, especially if you don't have someone controlling the experience like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
do. That to me made so much sense. As soon as I started doing the negatives, I did the others as positives, whereas you did all the negatives and went, but the others don't have a plus sign.
Yeah.
I refuse. But to me, I was like, no, that makes sense. And then my only confusion was I start the week at Sunday, and
No,
apparently
you
Feldman starts
don't.
the week
You're
at Monday.
lying just to annoy me. You do not.
Monday's the second day of the week.
I
Yeah, it
don't
is the second day
care
of the week.
how you grew up. This is absurd.
You don't care how I grew up.
This is one of seriously, is this one of those things? Do you actually believe this, or do you just do it to make me mad?
Hey, Dani, why don't we go back in time to the television of yesteryear? And I turned it on. Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday,
Whoa.
Wednesday, happy days.
You
What
want to
about
go?
that?
You want to go back to the good old days, do you?
I want to go before we jumped the shark and we knew how to count
This is
days.
crap.
So I that was an interesting one. I think possibly weirdly the hardest puzzle is in a tiny way is the compass.
Yes, I wasn't sure how the compass was gonna.
Yeah,
Because
that was
all the-
really intense.
Because all the
to
bits
hold
are there.
something
You
from
found the
angle.
north and the south and the east and the west. There's like the idea eventually, once you get the idea that like the east is below and the west is up,
Yeah.
it starts to be
Yeah,
just
thanks
weird
for
enough
your word
that
hinting
you
on that.
go, oh, can I tilt it? And
Yeah.
like, but even then, it's because it's one of those. It's like a magic solution a little bit. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to figure out exactly mechanically how that would work. So it's hard to
That's
do it.
exactly it. And escape rooms absolutely have
And this
that.
is so
Yeah.
common across, and you know, it's an interesting one. And I think this one is saved by that verticality. Is just weird
Yeah.
enough to make you go, well, I guess I'll try it. That's weird. I guess I'll give it a crack. And I think if it didn't have that vertical element. If it was just north, south, and then the west was on the floor and the east was on the floor on the same
Mhm.
level that you're on, I think it would be never solvable. And I think that verticality makes it just weird enough to try it.
Fair. That's very reasonable. There was a lot of good game master crafty wording that you managed to do that led
Yeah.
us in correct directions.
Yeah, and look, some of those are completely written. Some of them, I believe, is stuff that I think I was saying either before the recording, maybe during the recording. I was saying that there are a couple of things I've changed,
hmm
and some of them I feel like that Megan would do normally. They would what you would do conversationally as a
Sure.
game master, but
But
because
may
I
not
wasn't
have been
prepared, so I
written in the
made a few
script.
notes about that, like the exact way the lamp was pointing, not facing the desk. It was parallel, so that it was clearly a little bit odd because that
Yeah.
was you need to get the light to match the lamp, and then
Yeah.
you would highlight the stairs and you'd highlight the wall in that way.
That's fair. That's
So
Yeah,
it's
fair.
like a
it's funny,
hint.
that
It
makes
wasn't
so much
necessarily
sense.
required because you might just set the lamp that way anyway, but it's just a little way to connect them up.
The one that I was particularly thinking of was when we were listening to the radio message and I heard stare out and I went logged. Great. We found some logs making up a bed and
Yeah.
stare. We've got a stare, but it turned out it had nothing to do with logs in the bed because after that we went to stare at the stairs some more. And you mentioned, and also I wanted to clean stuff and I asked about the water in the stairwell.
Yes, which I used
and
an opportunity to say that it had warped them. They were warped
you
by
said
the
that
water.
the water
Yeah,
had
that was-
gone down to some of the stairs and that brought it together and made me look at
Yeah.
all the things the radio had said together.
That worked
That
out
was
quite
very
smoothly.
nice wording. It was
Also with
impressive
the
stuff.
hash marks on the thing with the levers.
Oh,
You
gosh.
mentioned you used the word geometry.
Yep,
think.
you
Yes,
did.
yeah, geometric land.
Yeah.
Which is also to distinguish them from the fact that because if you had been picturing them in your head, like there was a attempt
Yeah.
there to be like, I'll use the words to clue it in, but it's also like if you'd been picturing them as swirly kind of fancy M's and L's, like a lot of the
Oh,
other
for sure.
writing,
Then it makes no
you would
sense.
never have solved the puzzle. It had to be like these are donk 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 donk, just plain simple.
And I wasn't. I
without
have a
saying
very
4 lines put together. kind of
jagged
thing,
L
you
and
know?
a jagged M on my pictures, but
But again,
it
that's
didn't
quite
occur
tough.
to me.
But I'm interested by that, Danny, because you, I feel, have done puzzles
course
like
I
this where it's
have.
just here is the number of strokes needed to make up a letter.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is like
Yeah,
a
I think that's really
sort of-
cool.
Yeah, so this was a nice implementation of that, and it was smooth and clear enough. That is one, however, that I did change a little bit because
Oh, really?
especially for just because this room has so much in it. And I
Yeah.
think if you wanted to run it without a time constraint, you wouldn't bother changing this. I changed it just to give it a little bit more pacing, knowing that I want to get it under an hour, save myself some editing, which is originally the floor looked different. The
Oh.
entire floor, the pattern was just the triangles that matched the compass,
Mhm.
nothing else. And
Oh, okay.
in those
that's
triangles,
funny.
there were the scratch marks. The 4,
wow.
then 2, then 4, 2, 2, then 4, then 2, then 4.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that would have been rough.
There were a few little things like it got me because the first thing was like it said that those were in the triangles, but there were only 7 of them. But presumably in my head there would be 8 triangles.
Yeah, possibly. Like, I drew 12 triangles on my
Or 12,
compass
like,
picture,
you know,
so
when
who
I
knows?
pictured, so I thought that didn't fully match up to me.
Maybe.
And then also it can, like you were doing, it kind of, I wanted to separate the ideas out a little bit more, so you didn't think that the compass goes with the panel.
Yes, I agree with
Yeah.
that separation because
Yeah.
even now I wasn't certain and I had to
exactly.
ask for
so
clarification
I wanted
on
to
that.
separate them a little bit further out.
That said, I think I might have had less trouble with the compass side of that puzzle if the whole room had been compass designed.
Really?
Possibly.
So this is interesting. Maybe I made a change for the negative. Why would that? It didn't have I changed it to be just the compass design with a key to imply like there is a key in the compass. You should
Yeah.
deal with the
Yeah.
compass. Because my worry when I was reading through it was that I wanted to start being like, I drag the table over to the point on the floor that matches south on a compass, and I drag the
Yeah,
the
that's what I
mirror
was
over to
thinking, yeah.
what matches west, and I kind of thought it
Yeah,
made
that's
it
also
too-
quite possible.
Yeah, so I just wanted
Also
to make
not
it
a bad puzzle.
hopefully a little. I know, right? Like a really fun puzzle. And then I realized that the E. I was like, "Where's the E?" I was like, "Oh, it's on the metal floor, the stone floor of the bottom. I can't drag that
I'm
anywhere."
glad we sussed out that 3. And also, I don't know if you can hold up my
I was-
notebook for how I drew that 3, but wherever it is,
I think
it's like just to the right of the circle.
Oh, okay,
room.
yeah.
I could not have drawn that any more to look like an
I
E.
was looking at it upside down because of our
and that makes
location,
it
and
look
I went,
exactly like an
"Great.
E.
I don't have to mention this anymore because that's an E."
And yet you were the one who nailed that. I went, oh, great, we've got an N. We've got something that looks a little bit like an E and a W. When
Yeah, that's the only reason I said
knew-
is because you said it looks a little like an E, and I was like, it does look a little like an E. Hey, that's 3 of the things.
I didn't get that at all. I was trying to spell something.
But-
Speaking of spelling things, thank
Yep.
you for getting that the letter C meant the C.
yes,
Oh, yeah, letters are my specialty, I guess.
I love letters. They call me Letterman.
I wasn't getting that.
Um,
I was going straight to the capybara socks.
no, that's it. But no, like it was quite interesting. What I really like, because it was hard for me when I was reading it to see whether or not those diary entries created any kind of coherent narrative. But I'm really glad that
Yeah.
they did. Like we all sort of
Yeah,
got
they
on the
did.
same page of like what was happening here. And because I was so much in like checking for puzzles mode and how it was all going to connect, I sort of skimmed them a bit more. And by the end, I was like, I don't know what's going on. Should I? I think I should. It seems like they work, and I'm really glad that they did work. And I think it creates a nice little story in a situation. I quite
Yeah.
enjoyed the theming and the story of this room.
Not only did they work, I felt like that final puzzle where we needed to get those page numbers and the themes that were going on in all of those pages that we'd found in order to decipher the pictures and get the radio signal. It like you can see my notes here. They are a mess. There are pages scattered all over the place here.
Yeah.
And yet, even though I hadn't followed like exactly what the important words were, because we didn't know what the important words were going to be in each entry, it felt cohesive. It came together. We knew what we wanted.
I would
this.
like to say that pure Bill edition.
Oh, interesting.
I want to talk about the final puzzle because I think so. I basically I remade the final puzzle of this room.
Okay.
But I think what I actually did was uncover a secret ghost puzzle. And I would love to know. I find it interesting. I think I've done something that Megan originally had and changed out.
Oh, this is interesting.
So, what the actual final puzzle originally was is I drew this image for you of this image scratched in.
Yeah.
And originally what it was a diamond with one side missing, then a big sort of swirl, then a star, then a question mark, but the dot of the question mark was off to the left, and then 3 kind of circles together, almost like a clover of circles.
Okay.
And that was the puzzle.
All right. At first, this doesn't look excessively different, except thematically. I don't know where we'd get a swirl from him in a diary entry.
And the solution to this was a diamond has one piece missing.
Yeah.
So it's a 1.
Mm-hmm.
The swirl kind of looks like a 6. So it's a 6.
Oh, okay.
A star has 5 points.
Sure.
So it's a 5. A question mark sort of looks like a 7.
Yep.
And 3 circles sort of look like a 3.
Right.
Or that's number 3. There's 3 circles, so it's a 3.
Okay.
So it was purely numerical.
Mm.
And I went, that's interesting. But it cannot be a coincidence that they matched the numbers 1, 6, 5, 7, 3. There's nothing that matches
The
them.
diary.
You didn't need to see that. But clearly those numbers were set out separately.
Yeah.
As 1, 6, 5, 7, 3. But it always feels like there was meant to be each of these symbols attached to the page.
I think that the connection there was you have circled those page numbers as you went. You should have those in mind.
And so it was like, so now that you have them,
you can use those to know, great, I found 5 things.
And
I'm looking
then,
for a
justifying
number.
if one of these were 1, which would it be? If one of these were 6.
Right,
I get that.
Which makes sense. But I kind of, in my brain, I didn't want to do it that way. And I always thought I wanted a connection to the page. And I felt like some of them were like, especially because there was a 3. Like, is a diamond with one side missing, is it 3 sides or one side missing?
That's
is it 1 or a 3? And I thought there could be a little bit of confusion that might, again, if you had no time limit, leave it. It's great. Like, let it be these sort of more concerning shit. But when I really, for an episode of a podcast, you want that like momentum coming into the final puzzle.
Sure.
So I wanted something that was a little bit more like, that's it, done, haha.
Now, I assume you didn't change the diary entries.
I changed 1 diary entry.
Ooh.
Every other entry had these the wording was completely
keyword.
untouched. I still wanted to mention justice. I went, all right, great, justice is a cool word. I'm going to find a symbol that means justice.
Again, thank you, Matt.
What I loved is that I could use it to make a thematic dot point as well of like a thing that fell off a scale. That was deliberate. I thought that was actually really, really fun.
Again, I'm very glad that we saw that.
One of the mentions
it wasn't super subtle. It wasn't the tiniest dot, but still.
So I thought that was really well.
I moved the mouse a little bit just to make sure it wasn't something on our screen.
The lighthouse was mentioned. The what were the other symbols? I can't remember.
So we had a sailboat.
Boat was mentioned.
Yep.
Book
Cassette
and
and
cassette.
The cassette tape match. The book. I wanted some of the symbol from that passage, and I couldn't find anything. So when it said things that he remembered or that he missed, I added in things that he missed. His book. His books and his dog. Because it mentioned learning. I thought this matches to the idea of a book, but it doesn't say the word book.
Fair.
So I want it was much more conceptual. There weren't many objects in there. And so I thought learning, like you could put brain, or that's not quite, and book is really nice. I'll also add the word book in. But that's the only thing I changed. And I really like it in the end. I think that thematic connection to the text was quite fun. So it was a small tweak, but I quite liked the change.
Can I just ask, this is completely irrelevant.
Please, ask an irrelevant question.
Is the letter code for the state of Maine ME?
Or MN? No, ME, right?
Yeah, it's ME.
Because I wrote MN and I was staring at it going, that's not right. And that's Minnesota, which is a weird Coast Guard. But...
Yeah, cool. Where'd they get all the Vikings in Minnesota? That's so far inland.
I think that was a reasonable change to make. I like having to be invested in the diary entries.
Yes, I thought it added a little, because that was the other thing. The diary entries were so focused on the storyline.
Yeah.
And they paid off completely for the storyline. I also wanted to add a little bit more puzzle payoff for them.
I think that was a nice idea.
As opposed to them almost kind of just being like a hint for those 1, 3, 5, 7, 3.
It pushed
Wanted
us
have
to
a touch
appreciate
more.
it that much more.
Yeah, and it worked really well. So it was great that all the pieces were there to just be like, I'm just gonna just add a little tiny little brush stroke and be like, great. But no, it was really lovely. Yeah, I moved a couple other things around a tiny bit, but not much at all. And again, a lot of them were just notes for myself for like, this looks like this. So I should mention the cage around this, or there's a how the light works.
Oh
and
yeah,
things like
yeah.
that.
Now, I haven't done too much in the way of running other people's rooms myself. I should try it sometime. It'd be interesting to
It is
see
really
how it
an
feels
interesting
different.
experience.
But yeah, you've done little bits of your own. You've done plenty of Solve This Murder hosting of your own work. How different does it feel? How disarming is it to feel like... Because, I mean, the best thing about writing your own room is you know what is on paper and you know what you can just make up because it's not on paper.
I will say, yes, that's the biggest thing. That's the big, like, when you've written it yourself, you can fill in details in a confident way. Because you know the thing that is fundamentally important, and it's easy to be like, oh, yeah, you look under the table, there's nothing there. Whereas when you haven't written it, it's much more, oh, you look under the table. I don't think there's anything. Nothing says there. But was there another object that I thought I saw that said
I
it was
wonder
under
how
the
much you'll be
table?
able to hear that in your voice as you go back and edit the episode.
A lot, I'm sure. There was one major moment for that, which was you had pulled the light out of the wall and then you had looked at the ship. And specifically the action...
The brick out of the wall.
Yes, you pulled what did I say? The light?
Light.
Yeah, so the light was shining through the wall onto the ship and you looked at the ship. And that allows you to see the ghost.
Right.
But the specific action is looking for a ghost on the ship after you pulled the brick out. Because you get hinted that there's a ghost in the book about Maine legends.
Whereas for us, we saw the ghost and so specifically looked in the book for a ghost.
But I realized that, the ideal path was meant to be you look for your location in that book, and that tells you about a ghost story. So then you say, can I see a ghost? And the story, if you
we
look
did
past the
waggle
puzzle,
that around a bit.
talks about like in the right light when things are shiny this way, you can see the ghost.
That's good.
But you asked earlier, you said, we're looking closely at the ship, and I knew that you'd already removed the light. So I went, okay, wait, they should see it. Is this going to break anything? So I actually took a break. I went back and I looked at that note and I went, wait, this is fine because that also has a puzzle in it.
Yeah.
So it's not going to break anything. You're going to see it and you're like, oh, this tells us about the ghost we already found. But it doesn't break like the sequencing of the room because you still need to solve the puzzle in that text.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that was the one thing where I got confused, but it was actually written perfectly well. The writing was great to come at it either way, and I just freaked myself and went, wait, no, something hints this. Is this going to ruin and break the room? And it didn't, because it had two functions. It was a hint and a puzzle. You didn't need the hint anymore, but you had the puzzle. But no, it was a lot of fun. It was probably, I don't know how long the final episode is, but like the recording was longer than usual. And I think a part of it is because it's been a while since we've done puzzles that had how many there were and how intricate they were. Like they were quite deep. They required a little bit of process. I think we've cut a lot of the process out of our puzzles. And it's kind of nice to go back and just be like, look at these sentences. Over and over, just find all the letters in them. Freaks, get working. Ka-chow.
It's interesting because you say that when I look, I don't know how many puzzles there were, and I don't know how long each individual puzzle there were. But looking back, it all seems like it's nice, smooth flow. I know that like the counting of pages to get that flip book at the start was a lot of staring at it. But apart from that, there were just. Yeah, in hindsight, it's all a nice smooth flow and oh god, how have we been recording for this long?
Yeah, true.
How did that possibly happen?
So
Where did this time go?
The real problem here is you. Whenever you play the rooms. No, that's not true. You did very, very well. You smashed through a lot of these puzzles. You saw them very quickly. And I think you should both feel very good about how you do that room. I think it's a hard room. I don't think that's an easy escape room.
Not at all.
So I think you did really well getting through it.
It reminds me,
You also spent a lot of time in the first room where I could have just said you go up the stairs, but I thought I'd leave you in the room for a while. And you're like, what do we do?
And only about 10 minutes
Nothing,
after that
yeah.
did you say, actually, you know what? This is a slightly long room, so you don't have to waste all your time down here. Thanks. Yeah, this reminds me of, I don't know if any of the puzzles had any similarity to it, though a hint, actually. We did an astronomy tower room. Do you remember that one? The observatory?
Yeah, the observatory.
Which was also multi-story, round room.
Had a fridge.
We could control a big device and where it's pointing,
you're right.
things like that.
There's a lot of kind of similar feelings.
I think I'm intimidated by circular rooms.
Yeah, circular rooms and 2 levels, that's crazy. Can't be done. Look, overall, I think it was a lot of fun. I'm so a huge thank you again to Megan for sending the room in. I know it took us 4 years. Took us 4 years to play it, but we got there eventually. So thank you so much for sending it in. It was a lot of fun to run through and to do.
Now, Matt, also, we've teamed up for things before. Real world escape rooms, occasional finish it episodes. But is this the first time that you and I have done an Escape This Podcast episode on the same team?
Yeah, I think so.
Unless you count like the four of us doing Tommy's guest room.
You're right. No, it isn't, because all 4 of us, that you and Chris and us, we all played
That's
Tommy's.
That's right.
Randall's game, Roland's game. I got there eventually. Roland's game, yeah. So we played
Anagrams were a big part of that room, Billy. You should know the character's
I anagrammed Roland to Reynolds. Come on.
Well, it was the first time just the 2 of us.
That's right.
That's mostly because you don't really play these very often.
Not so much.
In fact, how many of these have you ever played? I mean,
it's
with
a
guest
very
game masters,
reasonable
quite
question.
A lot, but still.
It's why it's a challenge for me to become Topeka vote eligible.
It's fair.
Like, we know that you are. You've played all of them.
That's true. But no, look, I had a lot of fun with this. I'm trying to look through some of my notes.
From when you played it yourself?
Yeah, from when I played it myself. Of just like reading. I was running it and playing it at the same time.
Yeah.
But no,
that was very satisfying. Sorry.
Please go on.
Oh, I was really satisfying to go from having 10,000 disparate clues and then getting them all put together eventually. It was kind of overwhelming.
I was worried running it. I was like, this is going to, you guys have like 50, it's like you've been going for so long and it's going to take you've done like half the stuff. And then the second half was just like, and then bang, and then bang, and then bang, got it. Give me the next one. It says blue socks. Give me the socks.
It's
blue.
not
Give me the
unusual for
you smashed
these audio escape rooms to be like that.
Yeah, and so again, kudos to Megan for writing it and having that same structure present. Like the flow worked really well.
For sure.
So, I hope she feels very proud. I hope she's listened to it. Maybe she hates us now. It's 4 years ago. Maybe she went, they haven't run my room in 4 years. I'm not going to listen to their show. I only listen to Joe Rogan now. I don't know. Maybe. Well, look, thank you so much to Megan for writing the room and sending it in.
I hope at least once we've pronounced your name right.
I can give you, I'll throw in a couple of Megans just in case. And if you need them, you can use these and you can go back.
Matt insists that everyone else in the world says Megan.
Megan. I think I would only say Megan if it has an H in it. I think MEGHA, and I'd be like, that's a Megan.
I feel like the H is more Megan in my experience, but that said, at my high school, there were 2 Megans. I think one of them had an H. They were both Megans.
Here's the thing, Megans out there. If you want me to say your name is Megan, which is perfectly fine, why not go for a double G?
It is true. That would clear up everything.
Classic double G. That's a Megan.
All your parents are wrong.
I've got a double L in my name. I'm doing my work.
Very helpful.
I've got a double L in my name.
We know what we're talking
and last
about.
name.
And no one ever calls me
Matt,
Bile.
you've got a double T.
Got a double T?
Not actually essential for Matt's, though, technically.
Oh, that's true.
Does 2 different things, though. Matt and then Matthew. It's ruining everything in Matthew.
Yeah, what's up with that second T?
I don't know.
Pretending to be a T, and then you extend the name. It's like, haha, I was an H the whole time.
Put a little jump in it.
I'm a little thorn.
Matthew.
Oh, oof. The second T in Matt isn't necessary either. I think I'm just going to get rid of it.
You know what? Go for no T's. Go by Ma.
Just Ma.
Ma.
Hey, Ma.
Hey, Ma. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show.
I'm sure M-A-H-U-E-U-E. I'm sure M-A-H-E-W is how Matt is pronounced in Ireland, right?
Matthew.
That's pronounced Matt in Ireland.
Think so. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much, Matt, for coming on and
thank you
for
joining us.
having me. It was so much fun.
It was lovely to have you. Do you want to give where can people finish it and anything else that you're doing with your life?
I think it's finishitpod.com, maybe. At finishitpod on x.com if you're still using that service. Yeah. And then, we're Finish It on podcast listening things.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to Finish It yet, you have to go listen. It's a fantastic show. It's one of the greatest podcasts in the world. So go and listen. And then listen again. And then listen a third time. And then come back and listen to more Escape This podcast. Come on, don't be rude. Thank you, Dani, for playing. I hope you had fun. Did you have fun?
Absolutely.
You enjoy it?
Yeah. My head took a while to wake up into it. I felt like I was just staring through a cloud, which granted, thematically feels appropriate.
You're coming out of the fogs of Maine.
And the room snowballed into clarity.
Wonderful. Like Maine in the winter. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you want to support the show, leave a review, tell a friend, jump online to some people. Recommendations is the biggest way people listen to podcasts. Advertising sometimes helps, but people don't pay attention to ads. They want you to say to them, hey, listen to Escape This podcast, listen to Solve This Murder, and if you don't, I'll never speak to you again, and I will cut you out of my life. And then they'll listen to our show. So please do that. And also, if you want to support, you can also sign up for our Patreon. We don't run any ads on the show. All our money is from crowdfunding. So if you have any money to give, we'd very much appreciate it. It helps keep our lights on and everything going, and it lets us. This is our main form of income. So it allows us to make the show, and allows everyone else to get free podcast entertainment. You're supporting the arts in a legitimate and actual way. So please donate, and there's stuff you get. Anyone who donates at any level on our Patreon can appear as an NPC in one of Dani's rooms. This was not one of Dani's rooms, so you didn't appear in it. But anyone
if your name is Jonathan Bunham or Captain Feldman,
if there's a Captain
sign
Feldman,
up now. You're already in.
You can retroactively be in this room. And for all of our $5 donors, there is a bonus episode every week of us playtesting the rooms or doing weird little puzzles.
We'll have a weird little one this week,
There'll
presumably,
be a weird little
because
puzzle this week, probably.
Because you weren't around to playtest this one.
Next week, whichever one. And then also, this week. And there's 2 Minute Mysteries, a series where we solve a whole bunch of strange little murder mysteries that are great fun to solve. It gets insanely weird. It gets very wacky, that show.
I'm writing a choose-your-own-adventure style story, and you can vote on the choices that get made.
There's vlogs for all of our $10 donors every month. We're doing a series where we react to escape rooms in television shows and try to solve escape rooms in TV shows from the 2-second snippets of scenery that we see. We're pausing and get out of here, Captain Holt. I'm looking at the TV behind you. Which is a great fun series. There's trivia for our $20 donors. $50 donors can do play tests of games before they're released. So it's a wonderful place to be. And look, if you don't want to sign up for a regular thing, sign up for a month and cancel immediately, and it'll be like an individual donation that gets you access to as much as you can listen to in a month.
Donate $5, download as much as you can handle.
Yeah.
And then leave it.
Yeah.
That's okay. Do that once a year.
And if you feel guilty doing that, just send us $10,000. So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you everyone for supporting the show. Thank you for coming on and playing. Bye, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
I can't say y'all.